What does it mean to be a follower of Christ? How do we operate in this world? How do we live for Christ and not for ourselves? I'm Carl Larcina. I'm a first-generation American, born and raised in San Francisco. Being raised Catholic, pretty much everyone around me, my friends, my parents' friends, we went to Catholic church together and going through the sacraments. It was more on the procedures, like steps, going through it. When I was 7, my mother passed away. God took her away and she died of breast cancer. And growing up in that experience was difficult. At a young age, how do you process that as a 7-year-old? After my mother passed away, it was different. My father was a single father raising 3 kids. I don't think he really knew what he was going to do. When I was 11, I went to an altar call at a Christian event, and I felt something different. I wanted to have that personal relationship. And so I went up to that altar call. I gave my life to Christ, and that's when I came to know Jesus. I met my wife at a Giants game, and it was one of those events where they had a sponsor, and at that time it was the Mars rover that was the big thing. She worked for NASA at that time, and she was passing out pamphlets. And so I went up to her and was just asking her about the Mars rover. You know, God has a funny way of doing things, so we met twice on the same day. And later on at the end of the game, there was a bookstore across the street there, and I met her in the travel section, and that's where we finally exchanged the numbers. And in 12 months, I proposed to her and we got engaged. My wife's faith was definitely Catholic. She was born and raised in that, but she definitely wasn't practicing. As a young man too, that also scares you a little bit. You want to make this thing work and you want to be the best man you could be. I knew I needed Jesus to make that happen. Shortly after that, we found a church. First thing in the first Sunday service, it said, premarital classes start next week. So we signed up. While we were engaged and getting married, my father had his own walk. My father's a great dad. He was always supportive, always doing things for us. As far as his faith goes, we didn't really have the spiritual leader or direction, what I would see like in a spiritual father. One thing that I saw when I came to this church and went on the retreats, I saw a lot of men with their fathers, and I thought that is a special thing, where you have fathers that lead their sons and they're that spiritual influence. I remember seeing that and feeling jealous for that and wanting that. I asked God, can my father lead me? Can he show me how to read the Bible, how to live like a Christian? God, in his own gentle way, I heard him speak back to me. He was saying, Carl, you want him to lead you, but who led him? And he says, it starts with you. And from that point on, I pressed on further. I'm going to lead my family. I'm going to lead my children, and he's going to be my spiritual leader, and he's going to guide me. You never know when God might be using you in what you do. I invited my father up on the men's retreat. In the way I was turning around and changing my life, maybe he saw that. He was slowly coming to Christ himself. Later on that night, we told Pastor Mark that we want to get baptized. And that's what we did. We got baptized together up on the men's retreat in May 2015. One of the things we did, we dedicated all our children to the Lord. He was able to witness that. He came to all of them. Right before I was getting baptized, he said, wait, hold on. He goes, I never gave my son to the Lord. And so I want to just pause here for a second and just dedicate him to God. Pastor Larry was there and said a little prayer for us, and we did a dedication and a baptism. 6 months later, in September of that same year, my wife Pauline decided to get baptized too. And then this year, June 2019, all 3 of our kids were baptized, and my wife got to baptize them. And when God tugs on your heart, just listen, and it's going to require you to step out in your faith. And sometimes he'll call you to do some things that just don't make sense, at least to us. But if you just listen and obey, it could just be as simple as like, you got to invite that guy to your small group. It may be an awkward time. It may not be your best time, but it's God's time. And when he calls you to do it, if you want to see big things happen, just go do it. Yeah.